All right, let's dive right into this stack of notes you've got, all about SAP integration. Specifically, how SAP S/4HANA works with Ariba and Fieldglass. This is especially for anyone working in hybrid environments with like on-premise and cloud solutions that need to work together, right?
Yeah, and it's really common, more than you might think. Most companies aren't starting fresh. They're trying to make their current systems better by adding new solutions.
So, like adding a turbocharger to an engine you've already got.
That's it. You wouldn't ditch a perfectly good engine just because you want a little more speed. You
Hmm.
find ways to, enhance it. That's what integration does for businesses and their systems.
Okay, but let's get down to brass tacks. We keep saying Ariba and Fieldglass, but what do they actually do for a business?
Think of them as like specialists in the SAP world. Ariba is the procurement pro. It streamlines everything, sourcing from suppliers, managing contracts, and it can even automate those tedious purchase orders, which cuts way down on errors.
And then Fieldglass comes in to handle all those contingent workers. Seems like that's more and more important these days.
Oh, absolutely. With the gig economy booming, businesses need a way to manage that whole external workforce. Contractors, freelancers, the whole nine yards. Fieldglass gives them that control and, importantly, visibility.
So we've got our key players, but how do we actually get them connected? Our notes from chapter 15 make it pretty clear there's no single answer when it comes to integration.
You got it. Just like no two businesses are the same, their integrations won't be either. Sometimes a direct line between systems using web services does the trick, especially if it's a simple integration.
Straightforward, like a phone call.
Exactly. But sometimes you need something a bit more, heavy duty. For those complex situations, that's where SAP Cloud Platform Integration or SAP Process Orchestration come in. They provide a secure and controlled way to manage all that data, especially the sensitive stuff. Think GDPR compliance and keeping information safe.
Data security, GDPR.now. That's a topic I want to really dig into more. Can you give me an example of how those regulations actually affect the integration choices I make?
Sure. Imagine you're integrating, say, an HR system with your core ERP system. Well, GDPR has rules, strict rules, about how personal data, like all that employee information, is stored and transferred. Your integration method has to follow those rules, maybe even use things like additional security and data encryption.
So it's more than just connecting the systems, it's about doing it safely and responsibly.
You got it. And that's where choosing the right approach is so important, strategically. It's about the total cost of ownership, not just the setup cost, but the maintenance, support, security updates, everything.
And how quickly you can get these integrations up and running. Time is money, as they say.
Exactly.
Mm.
Something like those direct web services we talked about, they might go live faster. If you're on a tight deadline, that speed is a huge advantage.
Lots to consider. Good thing we're diving deep into all of this. Our notes go really in depth on SAP Ariba integration. What's the most common thing businesses want to solve there?
A big one is getting those purchase orders and invoices flowing smoothly between their S/4HANA system and the Ariba network. Basically, making that core procurement process automatic and way more efficient.
And I'm seeing this thing called SAP Ariba Cloud Integration Gateway CIG. Sounds like that's a key player in making integrations work well.
CIG is all about being user-friendly, which in the integration world is huge. They have these wizards to walk you through setting everything up, and they've got over 200 pre-built integrations. So you're not starting from scratch. Could save weeks, even months of work.
Wow, that's huge. Those pre-built templates seem like a game changer. What else makes CIG stand out?
Testing. CIG has a centralized testing environment, so you can make absolutely sure your integrations are solid before they go live. No more finger crossing, hoping everything works.
No more crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Sounds like a lifesaver, especially for those mission-critical integrations. Ever seen a situation where this testing really saved the day?
All the time. I've seen cases where a tiny little configuration error could have stopped a company's whole ordering process. But they caught it early because of the CIG testing environment. No harm done.
Big sigh of relief for those businesses, I bet. And it sounds like CIG isn't limited to just one back-end system.
Right. It can handle multiple ERP systems, which is really important for those businesses with really complex IT setups.
So CIG is like the Swiss Army knife of integrations, user-friendly, ready to go, and able to handle those tricky situations. Our notes really dive into strategic sourcing in an integrated SAP Ariba environment. What's the key takeaway there?
It's all about finding the best supplier for your specific needs. And using SAP Ariba Strategic Sourcing connected to your S/4HANA system opens up this huge network of suppliers to choose from.
So it's not just about automating, it's about giving you more options.
Exactly. It levels the playing field, especially for smaller suppliers who might not have the resources that larger companies have. They can participate in these RFQs just as easily.
So it's not just about big contracts, it opens doors. That's really interesting. What happens when those bids come in?
That's the magic of integration. It's a two-way street. So the sourcing manager, they can look at all those bids side by side right there in Ariba, choose the winner, and then all that information flows right back into S/4HANA. No more manual data entry, no back and forth emails. It's all seamless.
Streamlined, efficient. I like it. But we can't forget about SAP Fieldglass and how it integrates to manage that external workforce.
Definitely not. And what's really cool there is how it helps businesses answer those key questions they're always grappling with. Let's dive into those next. It's like having a detective for your external workforce. SAP Fieldglass helps you figure out all those things like who's doing what, where are they, what are they using, and how much is it all costing, right?
So it's about having that same level of control and visibility, but with your contingent workforce that you usually have with full-time employees.
Yeah, exactly. And because it all links up with SAP S/4HANA, you're not just getting information in, separate silos. It's all there, all connected.
Our notes mentioned a couple of ways to integrate SAP Fieldglass directly with S/4HANA or through SAP Ariba. It's kind of cool that there are options even within the integration, huh? When would you go direct?
Direct with S/4HANA makes sense when you're really focused on managing the costs and processes around your contingent workers. You want to make sure those invoices are going through smoothly and accurately in your main financial system.
What if I'm already using Ariba for my procurement, though? Seems like it could get redundant.
That's when you probably want to integrate Fieldglass through Ariba, yeah. It just makes more sense to use that procurement system you've already got, kind of like you're extending those workflows to include those services too.
So instead of having two separate things, one for goods and one for services, it's like I'm making this procurement powerhouse.
You got it. And so many companies are using a mix of full-time and contingent workers now. Having that single view, it's becoming more and more important.
It's like having all the pieces of your workforce fitting together nice and neat. Speaking of pieces fitting together, we got to talk about SAP SuccessFactors. Where does that fit into all of this?
Think of SuccessFactors as the HR part of this whole thing. It makes sure all the employee data between S/4HANA and SuccessFactors is the same. No more mismatched data or duplicate entries.
One source of truth for everything to do with employees. How big of a difference does that make for a business?
Huge. Everything's smoother, Streamlined HR, better reporting, even helps you stay compliant. When the data's good, everything's good.
And probably way fewer headaches for everyone. But even though all this stuff makes things more efficient, integration projects can feel really overwhelming. What advice would you give someone who's totally lost?
Start with your goals. Figure out what you want to achieve with this integration. What are you trying to fix? What opportunities are you going for?
Don't get ahead of yourself, right?
Right. Once you know the why, you can look at all those different integration options and choose what fits you best.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. There are people who eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff.
For sure. They're the experts. Use them. Ask all the questions you can think of. A little planning beforehand can make a world of difference when it comes to integration.
Great advice. We've covered a lot here. The different types of integrations, the ins and outs of Ariba and Fieldglass, and even SuccessFactors. And it sounds like each one comes with its own things to think about.
It's not a one-size-fits-all world. And because so many companies are using those hybrid setups these days, being able to adapt your integration strategy is super important.
Speaking of adapting, we should really dig into that chapter on SAP Ariba supply chain collaboration. It sounds like there's a lot to unpack there, especially for businesses handling direct procurement.
That's where things get really interesting. Imagine having complete visibility of your supply chain and collaborating with everyone involved in real time, making things way more efficient. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, now I'm really interested. Let's dive in. All right, let's dive into this SAP Ariba supply chain collaboration stuff. Sounds pretty intense, but you said it's exciting, so I'm ready.
It really is. Imagine your supply chain running like air traffic control, precise and totally transparent. That's the kind of control we're talking about.
Okay, so I'm picturing a big digital map with little planes as shipments zipping around the globe. But how does it actually work in real life?
It's all about connecting your SAP S/4HANA system to your supplier systems. It's like creating this digital thread through every single step of the supply chain.
So instead of phone calls, emails, spreadsheets, it's all happening live in one place.
Exactly. You're talking real-time updates on everything. Forecasting, inventory, orders, even invoices, all in one system.
Super efficient. What are some of the biggest problems this helps solve?
One of the worst is bad forecasting. When supply and demand are out of sync, you get delays, shortages, too much inventory. All that hurts your bottom line.
And I bet it causes friction between buyers and suppliers.
Totally. But with SAP Ariba Supply Chain Collaboration, buyers can share their forecasts directly with suppliers. Everyone's on the same page.
So no more last-minute scrambling. Suppliers can get ahead of things, make sure they have what's needed when it's needed.
Exactly. It's proactive, not reactive. Much smoother, much more efficient.
Our notes mention 3 big areas where this really shines: planning, buying and making, and then invoices and payments. Let's break those down. What makes planning so much better with this?
It's all about working together. Think about how forecasting usually works. Buyers guess, suppliers guess, and usually those guesses don't match up.
Cue the chaos.
Right. But this integrated way, that communication gap disappears. Buyers share real-time data, demand changes, market trends, even disruptions, so suppliers can adjust their plans too.
Like a crystal ball for your supply chain. You can see the roadblocks coming. How about the buy and make part? That's where things get really tricky, right?
It is. It's where the real work happens. Purchase orders, confirmations, tracking shipments, dealing with changes. Lots of moving parts that can easily turn into a nightmare.
Especially with global supply chains, different production processes. How does the system handle all of that?
By putting everything together in one place. Buyers send purchase orders electronically, suppliers acknowledge, keep delivery dates, everyone can track shipments, all in the same system.
No more digging through emails or playing phone tag.
Exactly. And if something goes wrong, like a delay or a part shortage, everyone knows right away and can work together to fix it.
I love the real-time aspect of this. It sounds like this integration is a game changer for businesses. But we can't forget that last step, the invoices and payments. How does it help with that?
Think about how it usually works. Paper invoices, manual entry, mistakes. Then trying to fix those mistakes. It's slow and it's easy to mess up.
Frustrating for everyone.
For sure. But with this, invoices are sent electronically, checked against the purchase order, and processed much faster. Less errors, faster payments.
Everybody wins. We've gone from these siloed systems and doing everything by hand to this incredible level of integration.
It's pretty amazing how far supply chain management has come and how tech is changing the game.
It really is. This whole deep dive has been eye-opening. We've covered so much the basics of these hybrid environments, how to integrate things like Ariba, Fieldglass, and success factors, and now how this supply chain collaboration stuff is revolutionizing how businesses work.
It's been great. Hopefully our listeners feeling more prepared to navigate this whole world of SAP integration.
Definitely. But with tech changing so fast, what new challenges and opportunities do you think businesses need to be ready for when it comes to integration?
That's the million-dollar question. I think as businesses rely more and more on data, keeping that data safe and secure, that's going to be huge. We'll see more cybersecurity, stricter data privacy rules, and more focus on using data ethically.
It's a really exciting time to be in this world of tech and business, and for anyone listening who's now learned a ton about SAP integration, the possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. Never stop learning, never stop adapting.
Yeah.
That's the key in this field.
Couldn't agree more. And that's a wrap on this deep dive into SAP integration. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep those integrations running smoothly.